Hello everyone and welcome back to School News. Today we are here with Harlan Community School District Superintendent Mrs. Johnson.
Tell us a little about yourself. Include where you're from, where you received your education, and about your family.
Okay, very good. I'm old, so I've been in a lot of places for a long time. But I grew up in Nebraska, central Nebraska. I'm the second oldest of 8 children. My family, my education background, is that what you asked for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I went to JUCO school, junior college in McCook, Nebraska, to play volleyball. Didn't really know what I wanted to major in, and it's when I got there that I decided I wanted to go into teaching, and I taught math. And probably that decision was based upon the fact that my math teacher was my most influential teacher. So that's the direction I went, and then I finished my bachelor's degree in Fort Hays State University, again to participate in athletics, and did my student teaching there. Took my first teaching job in Arlington, Nebraska, and I can remember telling my dad, okay, this is gonna be a 1 year and out deal, Dad, but I needed a job because I obviously needed the money. Ended up spending 31 years of my professional career in Arlington, Nebraska. Met my husband there. He was a teacher and is still a teacher. He was 6th grade at the time. Now he's PE. So I spent 31 years there, and then I spent 5 years as an assistant principal in Elkhorn, Nebraska. But that's where I'm at there. My family, Steve's my husband. Steve and I have 3 children. Jordan, a son who's 30, and he lives in North Carolina. He's in construction management. And then our middle son, Taylor's 28. His wife, Emily, had our first grandbaby, Camden, and he was 6 months old. And they live in Bennington, or just, that northern side of Omaha. They're both nurses. And our youngest, who is a daughter, is Riley. She is an occupational therapist, and she's 25. She lives in Scotts Bluff, Nebraska right now. So that's kind of us.
What are some of your hobbies?
Okay, some of my hobbies. I like exercising. I don't know if you consider that a hobby, but in my world I do, because it takes me a long time to do it, so it's got to be a hobby. Like exercising, I enjoy reading, Netflix. I don't know if that's really a hobby, but I think it is. My husband and I like all things athletics, so we kind of skirt around to different athletic things and musicals, and just, kind of being with family and friends, just hanging out.
Okay, you already told us some about your experience in the educational field, but is there anything else you want to elaborate on?
Well, thanks for asking. I did tell you a lot already. I kind of talking fast, make sure I get it all in there. As I told you, I taught math. I taught math for 10 years. Coached volleyball, girls basketball, boys basketball. I was an assistant AD. Obviously have my master's degree out of UNO, and my specialist degree out of Wayne State University, and you need that to do the superintendency in Nebraska and also in Iowa. So yeah, that's my education.
What led you to the Harlan School District?
Well, that's an interesting question. I retired out of Nebraska at the end of the last school year, and I knew I wasn't necessarily done working or done with my professional career, and it was kind of just a happen chance. We saw this opening for a part-time job, not part-time, interim job in Harlan, and I really hadn't intended to seek employment so soon, but my husband Steve is from Iowa, and honestly, ever since we've been married, we've always followed Harlan athletics because they're obviously very well known, and he grew up in Ottawa, so he was familiar with it. And we've always said, if we were going to raise our kids anywhere else, it would be Harlan, Iowa. And of course that never happened. They grew up, but when this came open, my husband said, hey, may as well try. And I said, yeah. So threw my hat in the ring, and here I am. And too bad our kids weren't younger, because I still would have liked to raise my kids in Harlan, Iowa.
How do you feel about being the superintendent of the Harlan School District?
Well, I absolutely enjoy it. It's a big learning curve for me. Not in terms of superintendency. I've been a superintendent for 10 years in Nebraska, and I was in principal roles for a lot of years, 16. So there was a learning curve, but I really enjoyed it. I mostly because I just enjoy Harlan. I enjoy the people. I think, as with most jobs, it's really about who you work with, sometimes more than what you're doing. And I like who I'm working with. I like the staff. Not only like them, I have a high regard for them. it's just an excellent staff and a student body, and it's just a very warm and welcoming place. So I enjoy it.
What are some changes or improvements that you plan on making in our school?
Ooh, I saw that question on there real quick before you asked it to me. I'm going, oh, changes or improvement. I don't know that I didn't come in with any preconceived ideas on changes and improvement, and as I get to know staff and the administration, and I'm just trying to follow through with what they might want or need. But I will tell you one thing that we are kind of working on that's taken up some of my time is just some changes to our safety protocols. I don't know if they're improvements, but they're changes, just kind of making it more systemic, and we'll start rolling some of that out more at staff level than kid level, but eventually it may come to the kid level and you'll see a little bit more. But mostly for students, you probably don't recognize or realize what I'm doing because it doesn't really hit your world. It's mostly hits in the staff, in the board world.
Okay, where do you see our school going in the near future?
Well, I hope we keep on the trajectory that we're on, which is one that is focused on excellence and equity for all kids, and not only that excellence, but making sure that we have a safe learning environment for kids and one that's welcoming, and that's where we need to continue to go and be. And of course, there's always things that we will want to add or change or enhance, but there's nothing here that needs to be fixed. It's just, what more do we want to do? How do we maybe want to do it differently? And we'll struggle, just like all schools, keeping enrollment up because we're in rural America. But we've got the things in place to make that happen. Mostly the people and the people.
What do you think about the ISL and the PEPL?
Well, I try not to think about those too much. No, we just, as you guys know, that's an important part. Those both are important parts of our funding resources. And of course, they're voter approved, or there's a voter approved portion of them. And at our last, election, a ballot issue, those were both ballot issues, and they both passed. And so what do I think about it? I'm very grateful to our patrons and our voters in recognizing how valuable they are to our day-to-day business. The ISL is the instructional support levy, and those are monies coming in, and we utilize them to pay for staff, to pay for operations, to purchase equipment, materials. So it's important. And then the PEPL, which is for the physical plant and equipment levy, that also passed, and we use that for buying our lease on our computers and buying technology equipment. We use it to improve the plant, or the physical structure, to buy buses. And so it's if it's not approved, it would be money that we don't have coming in, but then you have to figure out how you're going to make all this work. It's kind of like balancing your budget. How do you buy your new boots if you don't have any money to do it? So there you go. It's important.
Okay, do you plan on acting as our superintendent beyond your 2-year contract?
I don't know if they'll invite me to even be considered. I haven't got that far. I've said to some of my colleagues recently, my husband and I are not great planners. We kind of just go. And in fact, I said that to my husband the other day. I said, we got to do a better job of planning ahead. I'm kind of living in the moment right now. To be honest with you, I love what I'm doing here, and I feel fortunate to do it again next year. I'm hoping my husband's going to join me next year. So part of it is, does he like Harlan as much as I like Harlan? And that's a family decision. So I hope that is part of my future, but we'll see.